There are two different loops in MATLAB. The for loop is used as the counted loop, so when you know exactly how many times you want to repeat the action. And the while loop is used as the conditional loop, so when you know that you need to repeat the action, but ahead of time you don't know how many times you're going to repeat the action. In MATLAB, the action is any number of valid statements, and they're naturally bracketed by the keywords, either for in the for loop or while in the while loop, and then end for both of them at the end of the action. One of the most important concepts about MATLAB loops is that usually you don't need to use loops. So when you're working with a vector or a matrix, you want to do something with every element in a vector or a matrix, loops are usually not needed. We use the term vectorizing. Vectorizing code means basically taking code that you might write in another language using loops and get rid of the loops, using built-in functions and operators instead. So when you have a vector or a matrix, you can have a function of the entire vector or matrix, and basically MATLAB is automatically going to loop through all of the elements. So you don't have to write loops yourself to do that. So loops are used for other purposes in MATLAB, but when you're working with a vector or a matrix, you almost never need to use a loop. You can vectorize the code instead. Okay, so here's the general form of a for loop in MATLAB. We have the reserved word for, then we have some kind of loop or iterator variable, gets the value of, a range, where the range is specified using a vector. So the loop variable is going to go through all of the values in this vector or in this range. And for each value of the loop variable, we're going to execute the action. So the action is any number of valid statements, could be a bunch of statements in here. They're naturally bracketed by the reserved words for and end. The conditional loop in MATLAB is the while loop. So the general form of the while loop is the reserved word while, then a condition, something that's conceptually true or false, then the action, which is again any number of valid statements, naturally bracketed by the reserved words while and end. So we're going to indent to make it easier to see, but the bracketing is naturally done by the two reserved words. So what happens is the action is repeated as long as the condition is true. Since this is a while loop where the condition is on the top, that means it's possible to skip the action entirely. So the very first time you evaluate the condition, if it's already false, then we're not going to execute the action at all.